The golden light of the late afternoon streamed through the tall, arched windows of the palace, illuminating the rich tapestries and the scent of exotic incense that lingered in the air. The young sultan reclined on a velvet chaise, his dark eyes sharp, observing the room with a mixture of amusement and authority. The harem had tried to impress him for months: silken dances, whispered poetry, delicate offerings, but none had stirred him. None had been able to withstand the fire that simmered behind his gaze. He smirked faintly, the curl of his lips hinting at both challenge and curiosity. The doors opened softly, and she entered. A maid, slight in frame, but with a grace that seemed effortless. She moved with purpose, yet every step was tempered with caution, as if she knew the weight of the moment. Her eyes met his without fear, only a spark of daring that made the sultan lean forward slightly. "I hear the others have failed," he said, his voice low, teasing, a whisper that seemed to wrap itself around the air like smoke. "None of the harem could handle me. I hope you can." Her lips parted in a faint, unassuming smile. She did not bow. She did not falter. She only stepped closer, letting her hands brush the edge of the ornate carpet as if grounding herself. The sultan studied her carefully, intrigued by the calmness that defied the tension in the room. There was no flinching, no attempt to mask herself behind timidity. Just presence. The young sultan rose, his robe brushing against the marble floor, the subtle scent of sandalwood following him. "Many have tried to anticipate my desires," he said, circling her slowly, eyes scanning every movement. "They thought compliance and charm would win me over. They underestimated everything." His tone carried both a warning and a fascination. The maid's gaze followed him, steady, unshaken. "You speak as if victory is a test," she said softly, her voice calm but clear. "But perhaps it is not about winning. Perhaps it is about understanding." Her words were measured, deliberate, yet somehow they cut through the air like a blade, leaving the sultan momentarily still. He had not expected such confidence, such subtle defiance. He felt the intrigue rising like a tide, pulling at something deep within him. He stopped in front of her, close enough to feel the warmth of her presence, but far enough to maintain control. "Understanding," he repeated, a shadow of a smile touching his lips. "Tell me then, do you think you can see the man behind the throne? The one they never dared to approach?" She met his gaze evenly. "I do not see a throne. I see a man," she replied, her voice unwavering. "Not the legend, not the challenge, just a man. And perhaps that is enough." The sultan felt a jolt of surprise. Few had dared to strip away the layers of grandeur and look directly at him, let alone speak such truth. He leaned back slightly, intrigued, as if reconsidering everything he thought he knew about the game of power, desire, and conquest. He had been accustomed to submission, to flattery, to women bending to his will. And yet here she stood, small yet unyielding, with a presence that rivaled the vastness of the palace itself. The air between them was charged, a subtle electricity that neither could deny. "Do you know what it means to endure me?" he asked, his voice softening slightly, a dangerous hint of vulnerability hidden beneath the surface. "Many have tried and failed. Many left, broken in spirit though untouched in body. Can you bear it?" She tilted her head, considering him, her expression thoughtful. "Endurance is not about resistance," she said, her voice almost a whisper now, drawing him closer into her orbit. "It is about presence, being here, entirely, without fear. You cannot break what is already whole." The sultan's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in fascination. He had not expected such clarity, such insight from one so young, so seemingly untested by the trials of court and power. Yet there was a certainty in her words that resonated deep within him. He felt his curiosity transform into something sharper, more immediate, a desire not to dominate, but to understand, to engage, to be matched in a way he had never known. That he extended a hand, a silent invitation, almost a challenge of its own. "Then show me," he murmured. "Show me what it means to truly stand before me." She placed her hand lightly in his, not with hesitation, not with fear, but with intention. The touch was electric, yet gentle, as if each movement carried both an acknowledgement and a quiet strength. The Sultan felt a shift inside him, a subtle surrender to the unpredictability of her presence. She did not need to conquer him. She only needed to exist fully, and that alone was enough to stir him. They moved together, not in haste but in rhythm, a dance of awareness and mutual recognition. No words were necessary beyond what had already been said. The space between them was alive with unspoken understanding, a connection neither had anticipated but both recognized instinctively. The Sultan had faced many who sought to impress, to manipulate, to claim victory, yet none had ever arrived with such equilibrium. Neither submissive nor aggressive, neither timid nor overpowering. "Few have seen me like this," he admitted, voice low, almost vulnerable. "Few have dared to meet my gaze and not falter. And yet, here you are." He studied her face, searching for signs of weakness, but found none. Only presence, clarity, and an unwavering light that seemed to pierce through the weight of expectation and history. "And few have allowed themselves to be seen as they are," she replied softly. "You are not the legend they feared. You are the man you choose to show or hide. And perhaps this is why they could not endure you. They sought the challenge without seeing the person." The Sultan exhaled slowly, a tension he had carried for years loosening imperceptibly. He realized then that endurance was not a test of strength or conquest, but of presence, of honesty, of the courage to exist fully without pretense. And in that realization, he felt both a release and a spark of exhilaration, a sense that the game he had known was no longer about power alone, but about connection, recognition, and the rare vulnerability that comes from truly being seen. The maid stepped slightly closer, eyes meeting his with a gentle but unyielding certainty. "I do not fear you," she said simply, "nor do I seek to conquer. I am here. That is enough. Will you let it be enough?" The Sultan paused, his mind racing yet at peace, heart quickened yet steady. A smile tugged at the corner of his lips, and he realized that this moment, this presence, this balance, was something the harem had never been able to offer. Here, at last, was someone who could endure him not by submission, not by flattery, but by simply being wholly, entirely, unshakably present. He took a final step, closing the distance between them. "Then you may stay," he said softly, almost reverently. "And perhaps you will show me a world I have not yet dared to see." And in that room, bathed in golden light, surrounded by silks and scent, the young Sultan found something he had never anticipated. Not conquest, not triumph, but the quiet, unyielding presence of someone who could meet him entirely. And in that presence, he felt both challenge and release, curiosity and understanding, a connection that would linger far beyond the gilded walls of the palace.